Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by. The dude we're going to be hanging out with here today has made massive money for investors. How do you guys like that? That's a good start, right? Hey, David, I'm so glad you're here. Let's get to chatting. Sound good?
It sounds good to me.
Let's give one example, David Randolph, one example where you have made tons of money on real estate for maybe a client or maybe even for yourself. Give us one example. We'll make that our jumping off point.
Well, I specialize in short sales, and let me give you a really interesting case example. It was a short sale, which basically is where the homeowner is not able to make their payment and they're going to lose the house to the bank. And we don't want that to happen, right? And so as real estate investors, we want to come in and help out the family and stop that situation and then buy the house and make a big profit. So let me tell you about the big profit on this short sale. This was an interesting one because it was with the vice president of a major bank. Okay, so I'm doing a short sale with the vice president of a major bank, and I'm like, "Are you allowed to even do this?" And they said, "No. I got two loans, and they're both with HELOCs. Okay, so it's not with my bank and stuff. Okay, fine, I'll do the short sale." So I negotiate the short sale using my tactics, which would take too long to talk about. And I ended up buying the house, okay, for $250,000, okay, and sold it the next day for $350,000 and didn't do anything to the house on it. So how would you like to buy a house for 250 and sell it for 350 and do nothing in it? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Gee, you think? Yeah.
No, it's actually not. It was a trick question. Okay,
What?
here's the part. I did that all in my Roth IRA.
Look at
Yes.
you.
Do you know what that means? Tax free. Of course, Kenner, you know what that means. You specialize in it. It means tax free forever, right? So all that profit, 100 grand, never taxed, and I use it over and over, and it's never taxed for the rest of its life. So that you wanted an example. That's a good one that I just thought of.
That's a really good example. Now, let's unwrap that a little bit. By the way, let's talk about you first now, and then let's unpack that because that's an awesome example. Who is the David Randolph? Why don't we go there first? Who are you?
Well, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a real estate investor who, was working in the corporate world as an engineer. And I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I got to the top, and there was nothing on the other side. It's like, oh my gosh. And so, long story short, I climbed back down the ladder, okay, and I started into real estate. And basically, I became a rehabber. I rehab like 5 to 10 houses a year. One of my claims to fame is that all my renovated houses, that I've finished, put on the MLS, listed, for sale, 265,000 and less here in St. Louis, they all sold in 7 days or less at list price or higher for 14 years. Now that might sound really impressive, but it's not, because I'm making $50,000 to $150,000 profit on $250,000 houses. Okay, that's what's really cool. Now, how do I do that? That is then my method of buying. So I do that as what's called a short sale. In other words, the home is going to be lost to the bank, and I step in and I stop these are not on the MLS. It's not with a real estate agent, but I'm working with the family to stop the foreclosure date. Then I negotiate directly with the bank. For 15 years, that's how I bought my houses. As a result of that, and being successful in real estate and other tax bracketing strategies and advisors and people smarter than me, I basically ended up with $3.5 million in cash in my retirement account. So I became what's called a hard money lender. But my lending is very unique. Nobody out there does what I do at all that I actually know of. And basically, I lend now new rehabbers the money to buy the house, fix the house, the points, money for points, the money for the monthly payments. they make no payments at all until they sell the house on it and stuff. So I became a hard money lender. There's a lot more that comes, with that. My contractors material, there's like 2 more pages of stuff in my lending program. But then 4 years ago, people that know me said, hey, you need to teach other people how to do short sales. You've been doing it forever. So I've actually been teaching people all across the nation how to do short sales now. And so people are making massive amount. I mean, they're making more than me. It's embarrassing, I guess, but they're actually making more than me on their houses because the banks are literally, dumping them. And so that's kind of my story. I'm a regular guy. I'm not a big syndication or something. It's just me and my small team, a bookkeeper. I have a real estate agent that sells my houses. I've got a rehab manager, just a small company, and me just teaching people that want to learn how to be successful in real estate. It's a cool system that, in a short sale, and there's a lot to it. We can talk about it more here, but the key things that probably interest people right away in this podcast type thing is that in a short sale, the homeowner doesn't care what the price is. You're not negotiating and arguing with the seller who has pie in the sky, and there are no other buyers allowed. There are nobody else who's allowed to put an offer in on that house. How is that for a great way to buy houses? But that's my quick, background of where I came from and what I do.
Yeah, you've got obviously have a good background. You're a big name guy. You are a guru in that part of the world, meaning in that you do short sales. So okay, wow, we could go in so many different directions with you. So you're teaching people all over the country now, it sounds like, and you have probably what's called a mastermind. Is that accurate?
Yes. Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So people could join and learn a little bit about, not a little bit, but a lot about short sales. That's your main thing you're going for now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got free workshops. They can just text WS to my phone number and get on I do this monthly, a free 2-hour workshop, and that they can get in on any given month. I do this every single month, a free 2-hour workshop on short sales.
Well, first of all, let's get that out there. WS into what number? Text WS to what number?
636-685-2990.
Say that one more time, just for the heck of it.
Yep, 636-685-2990.
Awesome.
WS for
Text
workshop.
WS is in workshop. Okay. So give us a kind of a glimpse. So we want to add some value to the viewers and listeners. So give us a little bit more information about short sale. Let's define actually a little bit more in depth. What is a short sale? And then let's throw out some other ideas that can add value to the listeners and viewers.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Because actually, it's I get a lot of people upset because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't follow the traditional herd type thing. And so I'm about to tell you stuff that will make some people upset. But let's try it this way. Let me be nice about it. I'll try to be nice.
You'll be nice about upsetting them. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be kind when they upset you. So let's take the traditional definition. If I ask 10 real estate investors, what is a short sale? Most of them, in one sentence or less, 2 sentences, what is a short sale? They're going to say, well, it's when you owe more than what it's worth, right? They're not making their payment. The bank's going to take the house, and it's when they owe more on the loan than what they can sell the house for. That's your traditional definition, right? Well, nah, wrong, dead wrong. That is not what a short sale is. Let me give you the real definition of a short sale, the one that I've used for 15 years. The real definition is you miss one house payment. That is a short sale. You cannot do a short sale unless they have missed one payment. So for me, when they miss a payment, it has become a short sale. But wait, Dave, haven't you seen the market? Prices have been rising for years and years, and there's so much equity and all this kind of junk out there with it and stuff. Isn't it important, what the house is worth and what they owe? No, it's not. Here's why. There's a company called Black Knight. They were bought out by a company called ICE, big data company that does all this mortgage data. They did a 30-year study all across America of all the foreclosures for the past 30 years. They took all of those and they took the homes with 40% equity. They could have snapped their finger and sold that house instantly. but yet 1/3 of those, 30%, went to foreclosure anyway. They lost the home anyway. That is your short sale.
Yeah,
That is the families that you need to help out. That's the definition of a short sale.
totally it. I got it. Well, then again, by the way, we should know that there are some people who do make a payment and they don't end up short selling their home, by the way. I'm sure, just to throw that out.
Well, yeah, 30
Yeah.
minus 100 is 70%. 70% do. But let me ask you this. How many okay, look, there's over 2 million delinquent loans right now. How many do your viewers need? I just need one this month.
You just
and
need
one
one.
next month, right? There's 2 million. There's a lot out there. So yeah, 30% is more than enough.
Yeah. Okay. I have a dumb question. I have a lot of dumb questions. So then how much out of pocket does someone have to come up with then in that example? Let's say it's $100,000 home. Let's use that as an example.
Well, that's a little bit too low. I don't like to work with tiny numbers like
Yeah,
that.
okay. Whatever the number.
Here, let me give you an example. There was a house, okay, in St. Louis, and I can, if people want the full address, it's all in the public. Matter of fact, if you text WS, you'll get all the addresses for everything and see them. Very full disclosure in it. That there was a house that basically had a loan of $204,000.
Okay.
204,000. I did my thingy with the short sale with the bank, and I bought it for $29,600. And then I sold it for $275. Okay. So that's numbers that, hundreds too little. Let's not talk about that. Because
seriously,
actually, as a matter of fact, in my private mastermind, my monthly group of people, we have this thing that we don't do any short sales. Now, we don't do short sales on homes less than $150,000. Now, here's why. Okay. If the ARV is $150,000, in one case example, just recently, the student negotiated with the bank to buy it for $18,000. Okay, Great deal. Very excited. We're ready to come to closing. And instead, the bank released the deed, released the mortgage. Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but when the bank releases a deed, it means the homeowner now owns it free and clear, the house. So now we talk on the phone and they realize they own it free and clear. Guess what they do? Click, they hang up. And they'll ghost you. They now own the home forever.
They own the home free and clear.
Yeah. Now, we tried it a second time. We went to another house. We went to $22,000. The bank did the same thing. Okay. So release the deed. So I'm telling all the people listening to me right now, as a business and an entrepreneur, you don't want to waste your time like that, right? So instead, let's do the short sales on homes that are, 150 and higher. Let's do the $300,000 house we buy for $50,000. The bank's not walking away from $50,000, okay, like that and stuff. But basically, you want to try to do a short sale on a home that's above $150,000.
And then I like that rate of return, by the way. That's partially, confirming your story. So then, and I assume most of your client, do you call them students, by the way? What do you call them?
Yeah, they're members. They're members of a group.
Members. So I assume most of those people are pretty well heeled. Do they have to get into that group? Do they have to be a sophisticated investor, et cetera, or do they not have to be?
No, definitely not at all. I mean, short sales are just a way to buy houses. Now, what I will say is that, when you own the home, then I don't do any training on what to do with it. I don't teach you to rehab it. I don't teach you to wholesale it. I don't teach you to be a landlord. Okay. Just to be clear, I stop when you own it. And the concept was if you bought a house for $29,000, you can probably figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, there's a large margin for error there. You should be okay is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah.
So you don't got it.
You don't need sophistication. You don't really even need any money. Okay. So let's look at how this works on the marketing side. Okay. For me, I am mailing in my county, in the St. Louis area, St. Charles County, I am mailing to 40 people a month, 40. That's it. Okay. St. Louis County has over 250. I don't even mail to them. Okay. I'm mailing to 40 people. I want one short sale. And then next month, there's another 40. Okay. Let's go to Dallas, Texas. Right now, there's 600 this month. Next month, another 600. So you're only mailing to a small quantity of people. for me, I just mail to 40 people. So it's not the wholesaling $10,000 a month, mass marketing, mail to everybody that's not moving type thing. Okay. You're targeting directly somebody who needs your help. And in that free workshop, and I'll even tell you right now how to do it. Okay. How do we find those people? Okay. And what I teach you to do is to go to the county legal newspaper. So all across the United States, all foreclosures by law must be posted in the county's legal newspaper. Now, I teach you in that workshop to go to the internet version of it, of course, right? Of that. And we're going to get the names and addresses and the day that it occurs, and we're going to mail them a letter. Okay. That simple, old fashioned is death and taxes, mailing stuff.
You actually mail physical. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Now, can you get fancy and do some bandit signs? And, can you, can you even do door knocking? Yeah, you can do that. But, I don't want to sound lazy, but I can pay somebody to mail stuff for me. Right. I like that, and so I pay someone to mail those letters out for me. So that's what I teach you to do to be able to get those people on there. And in that workshop, I show you where that website, is. But, it's a really simple system. So a little bit of money. Okay. If you didn't have money for letters, heck, you could then just go door knock. It's funny. I had 4 students and I went to the 4 different cities, and I did this in 4 different cities. We took 6 foreclosures, 6 homeowners, and in a 2-hour time frame, we went and door knocked on 6 houses in 2 hours. And in all 4 cases, we got 1 short sale.
Dude, really?
So if you didn't want to actually mail, if you didn't have the money for mailing and you're comfortable door knocking, maybe take somebody with you if you want. Type thing. I hate to say go knock in the hood or something like that, but, use reason, do it in a place that you want to own the home, right? Type thing. And so so it's really, doesn't cost much money to do this all. Now, of course, you need a cell phone for when they call you, but, we're in America. I think the government even gives you cell phones now, if I remember right. But, so you got your cell phone, talk to them, and then you can then negotiate with the bank. And so one of the things is, now, how do I actually close on it? Okay, well, here's the trick. So people need to take notes and write this down. So when you're doing a short sale, you're going to turn in a purchase sale contract, and it's going to say cash as is. You offer to the bank with the seller and you as the buyer. Remember, I'm teaching you to be the buyer and the negotiator. This is not on the MLS. This is you as a buyer and the negotiator directly, and that's perfectly legal to do. But when that purchase sale contract goes to the bank, it says cash as is. See, the bank will reject it if there's an inspection clause. They'll reject it if you're going to say you're going to get a loan, because they're not going to take a chance of approving it, and then you can't get the loan. So you tell the bank cash as is. Now, all real estate agents on here know this, and investors should know it too. Any city you're in, read the purchase sale. It says you can come to closing with a loan, okay, just so you don't change the terms. So you can get a hard money loan to come to closing, so you don't even need any of your own money. You think it's hard for me to get $29,600 from a hard money lender to buy that short piece of cake? Heck, I just told you I am a hard money lender.
Exactly.
You can get the money from me, right? So you don't even need any money, Kenner, to do this.
Yeah, which is always nice. Obviously your internal rate of return, your cash rate of return is much better if you have to expel no cash. So, okay. And at the same time, you mentioned at the outset, Roth 401k, or was a Roth 401k? It was a Roth environment. I can't remember if it was an IRA or a Roth 401k. So it sounds like you're doing things on a tax efficient basis, generally speaking. So tell us a little bit more about that. Expand on that just a little bit.
Well, look, when you're making the kind of money I'm making, you've got to get experts involved in it, because you don't want to be in. Can we talk about the president? We don't want to be in the Biden zone. Can we say that? Scratch that from this. I don't know.
What do you mean? That might be really funny.
Well, it is to me. You don't want to be a target by Mr. President Biden, that you're over $400,000 income, right? He doesn't like those people, and he targets you. So now you have to do tax bracketing strategies. So here's how I do it. It's a mixture of LLCs and retirement vehicles, because you can do real estate in your IRAs, your 401ks, your traditionals. Heck, you can do it in HSAs, okay? Self-directed, of course. So what I do is through expert, financial advice from people is okay, so I'm using LLCs, but here's how the process really works. I go to my wife and I say, honey, how much money do you want to spend this year? Okay. What do you want to buy this year to make you happy, happy wife, happy life. She gives me
That's
this
all. You got it.
figure. Yep. She gives me this figure. And so I go out in my LLC S corporation and I do my short sales till she's satisfied. And then I start doing them in my retirement vehicles for the rest of the year. Now, sometimes I slip one by her, and sneak it in the IRA when she's not looking. But as long as I get that income level, because there's no point in me paying taxes on money that's just going to sit around, right? So you have to use professional advice. And I'm not an accountant. I'm not even giving you legal, financial, or tax advice at all when I'm just talking about my experience and what I do type thing. But you want to basically, you're making so much money, you've got to be concerned with the tax.
Yeah, we sometimes tell people, obviously, by the way, everyone who's listening and watching this, you have to go to your own advisor because they probably know your situation. But just in general, when we're talking to our clients, we usually tell them if they're going to buy something that's going to make a huge jump very quickly, usually think about doing it in a Roth environment. Because just as you said, it grow. Let's say you invest, let's just say you put $10,000 in a Roth, let's say, and you buy a cool stock, cool house, whatever the case, it goes up to $1 million. Gross example, right? Every year you don't have to worry about taxes. When you pull the money out, you do not have to worry about taxes. And what you're talking about, there sounds like there's huge upside. So it probably does make sense to invest in a Roth assets in something like what you're talking about, because you're going to have a huge run up. Probably don't want to pay taxes on it, either on a traditional IRA or traditional 401k where you pull it out, then you have to pay taxes. But what you're doing is you're putting it in, generally speaking, it sounds like in a Roth environment. And then, as I mentioned, the assets grow. You don't have to worry about taxes. And when you pull the money out, generally speaking, you don't have to worry about taxes because you've already paid for it. So I think that's a very rock solid idea that you got going there.
Yeah, I do use a 401k Roth and I do have a regular Roth. And the problem with that is, as you know, a Roth cannot move into a 401k. And so I got over $1 million stuck in a Roth IRA that I can't move into the 401k because of the current laws. You can move traditional IRA into a 401k, but not a Roth and stuff. So, but of course, I immediately started a Roth component on my 401k, okay, so that I could do the real estate transactions in that environment also. But yeah, it's you have a lot of choices and stuff, with real estate. You can do them in self-directed IRAs.
Yeah, and again, with self-directed, I think most of the people out there know, based on what we've talked about, but what other people have talked about, self-directed, you're kind of your own financial advisor. That sounds a little weird, but it basically is the case. You might have, if it's let's say a self-directed IRA or a self-directed Roth IRA, you have to have a company that comes in and acts as the trustee. But on a 401k and profit sharing plan, defined benefit plan, we make it so people out there are their own trustees, so they don't have to report to an institution per se. But anyway, I think what you're saying is self-directed. The client, gets to determine where the assets go. There are certain parameters by which they must abide, but in general, you have a little bit more control, and the ball is in your court. So it could also go down, meaning if you, the investor, are doing self-directed, you could have assets that go down because you've chosen an incorrect, let's say, quote, incorrect investment, but it is what it is. And hopefully if it goes up, hey, great, it's on you as well. But anyway, self-directed, I think in some cases makes a lot of sense. So anyway, I have a couple other questions. You're bringing up so many questions. It's unbelievable. I love the way we're talking about it, because right now, I think more than ever, people are looking into, or they should be looking at helping other investors, meaning maybe even homeowners, because they don't have money to make their payments. And this is one way to kind of help those people. And that's a big deal in today's environment, I would say.
Well, it's the reason that my wife and I started doing this in 2009 together. 2009 was a great debacle, foreclosure wave, tsunami, families getting the shaft by the banks not following regulations. And we were able to step in, new to real estate. And we had to pick, how can we start in real estate? Okay, what's our method of buying houses? And we looked at, hey, how can we actually help families out and make money? So that's why we went in, was to help families out, because you could stop the bank, you could get them time in the house to save their money up. You could get the foreclosure so that it did not happen and was not on their record. And you can even get the bank to pay them some money to help move and not have a deficiency and come after them for it later in life. And so you have to have a heart to help families. I want to be really clear. I'm glad you said it. I want to be clear about it because I don't want somebody to get on the phone with a homeowner and say, Mr. Homeowner, hey, this David Randolph guy said I can make $100,000. Would you let me do a short sale? That's not what, no, you have to have a heart to help them out. Matter of fact, the people that are the best at short sales, ironically enough, are those who have lost their home to foreclosure or a short sale before in the past, where they understand what the family's going through and what they're dealing with. And then you can step in and say, hey, nobody was there for me back then, but I am here for you right now.
Yeah.
And every time the homeowner will sign up and get that form that is the one form that you need to be able to do all of this, right away. Now, of course, you need to know what you're doing after that, but you need to have a heart to help the family out. And that's why, I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah. I look at it as you have to have some compassion. You have to want to help people versus kind of harm them and make profit on it. Obviously everyone should try to make money, but at the same time, if you do it in a good way, you're a good steward of money. That's the way I look at it, at least. All right. So I have so many more questions. All right. So, tell me a little bit more what it looks like to be a part of this. By the way, I'm not paid in any way to market your stuff. I want that to be known. I'm just completely neutral, but I think it's pretty interesting. So what's it like to be a member of that community?
Well, so, I've got a whole lot of free stuff. I got that 2-hour workshop. I've got a free 3-day master class. Okay. There. And then, if you want to go off on your own and try it on your own, go ahead. That's great. But if you want to then actually become part of the community, I've got an online education portal that teaches you A to Z, the entire process. I like it because it's evergreen. And then I've got a group coaching that's a private Facebook group called Short Sale Profits with a PH. Okay, Short Sale Profits, that is a support group of over 150 people where the banks can't see us, and we share ideas all across the country of things that we find out with the bank, and we share it with other people and stuff. So people can get into, anywhere along that they want to on. And so, they're supported in anything they do, just so they're trying, helping families out and trying to, look, there's 2 million delinquent loans out there. There's a huge crisis going on that people don't understand about. Okay. And the banks are desperate. I'm not saying they'll take anything you offer, because you do have to make it look like a duck and quack like a duck, but they are literally desperate because they are not able to foreclose right now. There is no wave coming. There is no tsunami. And I can tell you why. Okay. I have firsthand information at the banks and verification from this. One, there are not enough attorneys at the law firms to do the foreclosures because they all were laid off in March of 2020 when the CARES Act moratorium came out. See, people don't even remember that. You know how we marched on DC because the renters didn't have to make their payments, and we can we say bitched and moaned? We all cut that out, I guess. All of us and landlords, we went to DC marching. Hey, make my tenant pay. They shouldn't be. Well, see, the banks got the shaft too. It's really cool. But the homeowners did not have to make their payments for 18 months. So you got this backlog of people. There's no way they can ever catch up that loan amount. Yeah. And so the banks want to foreclose, but the attorneys got laid off because of the moratorium. So now they're hiring back. And yes, every month the percentage is going up higher and higher every month to get back up there. But, just like you, if you've tried to hire a bookkeeper or a house cleaner, it's hard these attorneys have other jobs and they went on to other places and stuff. And so the bank's waiting for you to turn in an offer so they can accept it, because then they don't have to go to foreclosure with it. And that's what people really, I think, need to understand, is that you need to be helping out these 2 million plus people, okay, who are going to eventually lose their home, have this deficit against them, and their credit totally ruined because of it.
I get it. I totally get that. So, and then wait, do you feel funny, or I can understand if so, do you feel funny talking about the different price points if people end up as members or coachee or part of the community?
Well, the online basic education portal is only $1,500,
Okay.
and it's everything you need. It teaches you A to Z, all the process of how to do it from the very beginning, with finding them, marketing them, to talking to them, to what to get from them, what to talk to the bank, what to give the bank, what to negotiate, to buying it and owning it for $1,500. That's all you need. Okay, teaches you everything. The Facebook group is only $97 a month. Okay, and you can quit anytime. I tell people, hey, I've got 50 months of monthly recordings. Join for 1 month and watch all 50 months and then quit. You won't do it because you'll find out how much value it is. So some people come in through that because they don't have 1,500 or they're uncomfortable. They join the Facebook group to see that there's a community of 150 people to support them. Then they go, okay, fine. Now I need the tools, the A to Z training. Then they go and buy the $1,500 online education portal, and then they, start in, with that. Some will say, hey, I got $1,500, snap my fingers. That's not a big deal. They get there first on the portal and they get really bored talking to just me. And I go, well, look, why don't you join a group of 150 people over here in the Facebook group? They're a lot more exciting than this bald guy. So you can come in from either direction and you end up in both places anyway.
Got it. I got it.
So, yeah, there's, look, I got the free master class, I've got the free 2-hour workshop. Get in there. If you think you can do it on your own, then don't buy anything. I don't care. I don't need your money. Okay.
You really don't. I know you don't. But really what you're doing is you're helping people. It sounds like, I know you have a good heart. You're out there trying to help people also, not only to learn how to do the investment strategy, but also some of the, people who might be losing their homes. It sounds like, and you're doing good by both, really, if you really think about it. And I know you're making your own money. Just with investing in homes,
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you can keep it as a rental long term.
Yep.
You can wholesale it, okay, for fast, pay off my debt kind of money, or you could rehab it and make the big bucks so your wife is happy,
Yeah, just like we said, happy wife, happy life. So, okay, then what's one thing we have not talked about yet that you think can add value to an investor out there who might be looking to deploy maybe a little bit of capital that they have? What's one bit of advice we have not yet talked about that you think can add some value?
Well, I mean, that's the thing in short sales. You don't really need any capital, because you can get it from a hard money lender. So really this is a very, cost-effective, method of buying houses. What I think I would really like for people to kind of understand right now, is that right now we have so in the old days for 15 years, the method to stop a foreclosure was to turn in a purchase sale contract and a short sale package. Okay, so you had to do this work to submit to the bank to stop the foreclosure date. Well, right now, we have got ways to be able to stop an FHA foreclosure, 4 days before the date. 4 days. We've got a way to stop a Fannie Mae, foreclosure just 2 days before. And we have a way on a VA foreclosure, VA loan, to stop it the day before. And so it's super easy for people to get into the system now and be able to help families out and stop that foreclosure date and then figure out what you need to do. Learn what you have to do, seek help from somebody and stuff like that. So it's really, they don't have to file bankruptcy. Look, the homeowners don't have money to file bankruptcy. That's how they got where they are.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Stuff. So now they don't have to do that. And you can, stop that foreclosure date. Heck, if you just want to be a nice guy, stop the foreclosure date and then go off to the beach, then you stopped it and you helped them, and now you give them another, 3 months or 6 months to figure out what they're going to do. But I suggest you stay there and help them, right? But I'm just saying, if I want to convey to other people on here, contact me so I can show you how to be able to do what I just said, type thing.
Yeah. And one last time, how does someone get a hold of you?
Well, actually there's a couple ways. I do have a website, thedavidrandolph.com, THE, davidrandolph.com. Now what happened is somebody took davidrandolph.com and I was heartbroken. Oh my gosh. Then somebody said to me, wait a minute, aren't you the David?
There you go, buddy.
GoDaddy, Mr. GoDaddy, give me the davidrandolph.com.
Yeah,
So
there
you
you
can
go.
go right there on the front page and you can put in your information and get stuff for free, or you can text the word WS, okay, to 636-685-2990. And that'll be a monthly, okay, and it's the second Tuesday of every month. But every single month, I do this free 2-hour workshop. If you actually text MC for masterclass, that's the 3-day one, but I don't do that very often.
Mm.
So I don't know when you're going to hear this podcast or anything like that, but WS every single month will work.
Awesome. And I can tell by talking to the people I know you have spoke so highly of you. Obviously, what we've talked about adds value to people in a lot of different ways. So it's worth someone reaching out to you. I mean, why not? Low barrier to entry, plus relatively conservative. Well, no, I would say good upside, and it's conservative in that you're hopefully not going to lose any money because there's just not a lot of cash outlay. So it kind of makes sense to at least learn about you and see if the deal works,
Yeah, it's just one method of buying. If you're a real estate investor, you have to have tools in your tool belt, okay? And short sale is just one method of buying houses, okay? And I just happen to think it's a really good one for 15 years, but it's just another tool in your tool belt that gives you these options. So, we've got this, just real quickly, the creative finance, the sub-2 world. It's a really big thing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because, we had these low interest rates in the past, and so a lot of people are doing sub-2. So the short sale method is just this little niche within the creative finance sub-2 world. Okay, so it's just a tool in your tool belt for all of the creative finance, sub-2 people out there. You need this tool in your tool belt. Now, once you get to know me, once you understand my systems and my methods as a real estate investor, where you're the buyer and the negotiator with the bank, that you'll find out that my little niche is very, very big, and it starts to push out the sub. Because why would I want to take over a $204,000 loan, okay, when I could get it for $29,600, right?
29.6 is a little bit better. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Well, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd much rather come up with $29,000 in cash at 12% interest from a hard money lender. Heck, I don't know, maybe you even loan money out. Anybody will loan money at that, that LTV type ratio. I'd rather pay 12% on $29,000 than I would pay 3% at 204, right? And stuff. So anyway, for all my sub-2 friends out there, just, think of short sales as this little tool in your tool belt, that'll help you with the family. If nothing else, look, there's some of these really, and I'm not going to mention names, some really big sub-2 people out there, that are working with me for this one single purpose. As a short sale expert, we are skilled in stopping foreclosure dates. See, the sub-2 creative finance people aren't trained on that. And so I'm actually working with a lot of people to stop the date foreclosure, because if that happens, everyone loses. Your sub-2 person, your homeowner loses, everybody loses. And so if you have a skill from short sales to know how to do what I said, 4 days, 2 days, 1 day, be able to stop that foreclosure date, that's a really good thing. So, contact me, find out how to do that.
Yep. Well, dude, I think it does make a lot of sense. Wow, David, thank you very much for spending time with us. It's been good. It's been really good as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure that some of the people out there who are listening and watching are going to reach out to you. I can pretty much promise you that.
Kenner, I really appreciate what you do with your VCast, with your podcast, wherever this thing ends up going out to and stuff like that, because, you're doing a one-to-many thing. Okay. Yep. You're able to help out your tribe, your people, okay, with something that, hey, this might work for me. It might not be, but you got another one, the next month or the next week, or, and that might work with somebody. So I appreciate, people like you and what you do to give me a platform to reach people all across the nation, with what I've learned and what I've experienced, and be able to help other people. So I want to thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel good. Yeah, we're just trying to get the word out. I mean, there's so many different avenues to building wealth. I think a lot of people don't know of it. People are just doing stocks, bonds, or whatever the case is. And I think that this is one of just another, as you said, a tool in the tool belt to potentially increase net worth. I think it's kind of scary how so many people have blinders on. They're only doing whatever it is. Maybe they're just doing venture capital. Keep the blinders on. And, well, wait a minute. There's something out there to diversify that may make someone a little bit more money. So, yet again, this is just one more thing that I think makes a lot of sense. I'm totally glad you were on to discuss it, really.
Thank you.
All right, dudes. Hey, this is Kenneth French, vastsolutionsgroup.com. We're talking with Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Totally appreciate you spending time. This has been a good one. Thanks again, everybody.